It has been over 1 whole year of living out of a suitcase full time, and a lot has changed in the last 14 months or so. After acquiring quite a few cameras on the road last year, I've had to do quite a bit of reshuffling of my kit, and I wanted to give you a little bit of an update for the months ahead. And at the end of the video, I'm going to do a little bit more of a personal channel project update, because we have just hit 75,000 subscribers, which is absolutely fantastic. I kind of just wanted to get you caught up on what the channel is going to be looking like for the next year and other things I'm working on outside of YouTube. First things first, yes, the camera in the thumbnail, this is the new Lumix L10. I haven't actually bought this camera. I was supposed to have this on loan from Lumix for 2 weeks, but then when I said I was going away again, they very generously offered for me to keep the camera for a few months and then return it when I get back. The only deal is, do not break the camera. I already have one video on the way with this camera. It's currently in the edit, and that'll be coming out sometime next week with lots of street photography and dog photography here in Italy, which should be quite a lot of fun. I was obviously a big fan of the original Lumix LX100, that absolute cult camera from years ago. So when I saw the L10 was actually going to get released, I was so excited to actually get my hands on something like the LX100 and the Leica Deluxe cameras, but with all the modern updates from modern full frame and 4/3 sensor Lumix cameras. I knew for sure that I wanted to take at least one camera with a 4/3 size sensor, so that's going to be the L10. And we're going to move up a sensor size. Yeah, this video is a bit silly. We're going to move up to our second sensor size out of 3 in this video, and that is the Fujifilm X100VI. Yes, equally as compact and fixed lens as the L10, I'm also bringing the Fujifilm X100VI. I don't know, this was my original packing list, and then the L10 came in as a last minute surprise, and they're just different enough that my gearhead just kind of justified taking both with me. And actually, I think it's going to be quite fun to, do a comparison down the line between these two cameras and kind of really weigh up which is best for which kind of photographer, because I already have very specific use cases for each of them that neither of them can do the job of each other. They're very similar, but they're very particular at the same time, if that makes sense. This I actually bought back in Seoul earlier this year, which you may remember if you saw that original video. I bought this second hand with a thumb grip that came with it, a sort of filter thread and lens hood adapter glued to the front of the lens, a few scuffs around the camera, and a suspiciously low shutter count when I first got it. It was like 5,000 or something. So really low use case from whoever had it before me. But I got it for an absolute steal. Compared to UK prices, I saved like a few £100s on this second hand, even on the used market in the UK. So that's why I picked this camera up originally. And right now, I just can't bring myself to sell it. And actually, instead of selling this, I sold something else, and that was the A7C II. I was always trying to turn my A7C II into an X100VI. I always wanted like the perfect 35mm lens, the perfect like ND filter, like pop on, pop off situation. And I was shooting with it in silent shutter a lot of the time because I wanted something close to a leaf shutter, like the old RX1 for example. And the X100VI, like it or not, ticks a lot of those boxes. It's definitely not the perfect camera. There are definitely a lot of problems with this camera. The lens isn't the best. Lisa and I have both kind of agreed that like the images look really low contrast a lot of the time. But these quirks and weird things aside, it is fantastic and it does so many things really well. And it's a very unique overall package that no one else is currently making. And given the fact that I have this weird ring glued to the front and it's a bit scuffed, if I was to get rid of it, I wouldn't even get a good deal for it. It's worth more to me keeping it than it is getting rid of it. So it's not the worst situation to be in. It's still an amazing camera. But yeah, having this alongside the L10 is going to be an interesting comparison to make over the next few months. If you have any questions about either of these cameras or these cameras versus each other, please put them in the comments below, and those will probably help inform those videos when they come out, because I think there's going to be a lot of shooting with both of these cameras side by side, and this should stop me from acquiring any other cameras while I'm on the road, unlike last time when my suitcase probably gained about 5 kilos in camera gear. Need to not do that again this year. Moving up another sensor size, I'm going to talk about a camera which is currently filming me at the moment. I'll have to just show you in B-roll. I have now got the Sony A7V, a full frame camera, and this has replaced the A7C II that I was just talking about. But why would I even replace the A7C II if I was keeping X100VI, yada yada? Well, for video, at the moment, Sony is my preferred weapon of choice. They are fantastic. I love the lens that I have for Sony. I have the 20-70 f4. It's just so versatile in zoom range. And the f4, like, I don't really mind not having an f2. I've talked about that enough on this channel. But the A7V just has a couple of notable upgrades that help both me and Lisa when it comes to video. Things like having the dual base ISO of 8000, which honestly is so useful when you are filming just using natural light, like we have been for the last year or more. And when you're filming on kind of like grey days or out and about shooting low light towards like sunset, you don't need like the crazy 12,800 of like the FX3 for example, but 8000 will be extremely handy compared to the 3200 of the A7C II. We could talk about ISO problems for days, especially in video, but the A7V does solve quite a few of those issues. Also, when I'm shooting my ongoing, recently started photography project, Dogs with Jobs, I want something that is reliable and is not going to have any sort of data issues like the A7C II was beginning to have with like these weird glitches and stuff. The A7V has dual card slots, which I've literally never cared about before, but because I'm relying on the generosity and the time commitment of strangers who are helping me a lot with just offering to be a part of this project, the last thing I want is to waste their time. On the subject of this Dogs with Jobs project, I'd like to thank everyone who watched my previous video and showed support in the comments. I really appreciate it. And obviously I mentioned there was this old TV series from the year 2000 titled Dogs with Jobs. And I had many suggestions for alternative titles like Dogs on the Job and different variations. So maybe I will choose one of those titles down the line. But for now, we're just calling it Dogs with Jobs. I'm too busy trying to get the next shoot lined up. And I actually might have one lined up here in Italy, which is going to be an interesting shoot. And hopefully I'll have more to share on that in the next month or so. So another reason to subscribe down below so you don't miss it when it comes out. So yes, we are staying on the move, living out of suitcases for the next few months at least. Last year, you may remember, may have seen, we were in the UK. We left Manchester, had been living there for 3 years. We were then here in Italy for a little bit. Then we spent some time in Portugal. I was in France briefly. Then we went to Japan for a couple of months. Then we were back over in Europe. Then we went to South Korea for a couple of months at the start of the year. And then we came back to Europe again. We were in the UK, then Turkey, then back to the UK, then now we're in Italy. And then now, at the end of the year, we're going to go to Japan again. Lisa and I both loved Japan so much. And it's one of those places that's so far and takes quite a bit of commitment to go out there and do a trip, that we were like, let's do it again now, because in a few years, we might not be as flexible to go out and do something like that. So we loved it so much, we definitely wanted to go again. So that's what's going to be happening towards the end of this year. Only hopefully this time I don't come back with the extra 5 kilos of camera gear. I need to exercise some self-control in that department. Outside of YouTube, I did already mention this in the first Dogs with Jobs video, but just having a personal photography project has brought me so much creative clarity in a way that I didn't expect. Because as much as I love candid street photography, The countless hours of walking and thousands of steps to get those handful of images that you think are okay when it comes to street photography, I find fulfilling when I'm in the flow, but actually retrospectively, I don't often look back on in quite a positive way, like the same way that I have done with dog portraits and dogs with jobs so far after literally one shoot. And I think a lot of people will say like, oh, you know, who cares? Everyone takes photos of dogs and whatever. But I think it's very much down to the individual and down to the photographer, and whether you photograph, like if you're into wildlife as well as things like street photography, if you're into photographing a specific subject, you shouldn't really care about what others might say if they don't care about your subject, because for every one of those negative people, there'll be like 10 people who do care about it. And that's really where I'm trying to kind of like shift my attention and my focus. And as much as I would love to just have a YouTube channel just about dogs with jobs, it's not a sustainable practice. I don't think I could do that. It'd be so much work, time and money investment, and it'd become like a documentary project. But I definitely like the idea of having this documentary photography project that I can also then showcase and share with you guys here on YouTube. The photography project itself can exist without the YouTube videos, but the YouTube videos couldn't exist without the photography project. Like, someone's got to go do it, and I'm going to be the one to go and do it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to meet lots of amazing dogs around the world, and who knows, I might still be talking about this when I'm 40, and I might not have finished it by then. But hopefully we get sort of close by that point. And if you didn't see that first episode, it is in the style of a gear video, but trust me, there's lots of dogs in there, and you can go watch that right here. I really hope you enjoy it, and please make sure to like and comment on that video so more people get to see it.